Welcome to Bible Quizzes. There are 80 questions in this quiz. Are you ready? Let's begin. 1. Who did God tell Elijah to anoint as king of Israel? Jehu, Nimshi, Elisha, Ahab. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is Jehu, 1 Kings 19:16. Also, anoint Jehu son of Nimshi king over Israel, and anoint Elisha son of Shaphat from Abel Meholah to succeed you as prophet. 2. Who advised King Xerxes to remove Queen Vashti? Memucan, Shethar, Tarshish, Haman. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is Memucan, Esther 1:16. Then Memucan replied in the presence of the king and the nobles, Queen Vashti has done wrong not only against the king, but also against all the nobles and the peoples of all the provinces of King Xerxes. 3. Which book comes after Micah? Nahum, Daniel, Zephaniah, Obadiah. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is Nahum. Nahum comes after the book of Micah and is one of the lesser prophets of the Old Testament. 4. When Jonah ran away from the Lord, where did he head to? Samaria, Tarshish, Damascus, Nineveh. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is Tarshish, Jonah 1:3. But Jonah ran away from the Lord and headed for Tarshish. He went down to Joppa where he found a ship bound for that port. After paying the fare, he went aboard and sailed for Tarshish to flee from the Lord. 5. Who was Cornelius? A gardener, a centurion, a gladiator, a teacher. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is a centurion, Acts 10:1. In Caesarea, there was a man named Cornelius, a centurion in what was known as the Italian regiment. 6. For God so loved the world that he gave us his blank. Power, Spirit, only begotten Son, angels. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is only begotten Son, John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave us his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish but have eternal life. 7. What name was Esther also known by? Hadassah, Rachel, Anna, Hephzibah. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is Hadassah, Esther 2:7. Mordecai had a cousin named Hadassah, whom he had brought up because she had neither father nor mother. This girl, who was also known as Esther, was lovely in form and features, and Mordecai had taken her as his own daughter when her father and mother died. 8. Where did Rahab hide the two spies? On the roof, behind the wall, in a well, under her bed. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is on the roof, Joshua 2:6. But she had taken them up to the roof and hidden them under the stalks of flax she had laid out on the roof. 9. What did John baptize people with? Water, wind, fire, the Spirit. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is water, John 1:26. I baptize with water, John replied, but among you stands one you do not know. 10. Which book comes after Titus? Philemon, Peter, Hebrews, James. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is Philemon. Philemon is the next book after Titus. 11. Who did Paul send back to Philemon while he was in chains? Epaphras, Onesimus, Nicholas, James. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is Onesimus. Philemon 1:10. I appeal to you for my son Onesimus, who became my son while I was in chains. 12. On which mountain did God speak with Elijah? Horeb, Carmel, Moriah, Sinai. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is Horeb, 1 Kings 19:8. So he got up and ate and drank, strengthened by that food. He traveled 40 days and 40 nights until he reached Horeb, the mountain of God. 13. Who wrote the book of Zechariah? Paul, Philemon, Zechariah, Micah. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is Zechariah. Zechariah 1:1. In the 8th month of the 2nd year of Darius, the word of the Lord came to the prophet Zechariah, son of Berechiah, the son of Iddo. 14. Which of the following was a son of Leah? Benjamin, Joseph, Gad, Judah. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is Judah. Genesis 35:23. The sons of Leah, Reuben, the firstborn of Jacob, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun. 15. Who was Leah's handmaid? Bilhah, Rhoda, Zilpah, Dorcas. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is Zilpah. Genesis 35:26. The sons of Leah's maidservant Zilpah, Gad and Asher. These were the sons of Jacob who were born to him in Paddan Aram. 16. How old was Isaac when he died? 200, 180, 120, 100. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is 180. Genesis 35:28. Isaac lived 180 years. 17. How long did the virgins wait before approaching King Xerxes? 7 days, 7 weeks, 6 months, a year. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is a year. Esther 2:12. Before a girl's turn came to go in to King Xerxes, she had to complete 12 months of beauty treatments prescribed for the women, 6 months with oil of myrrh and 6 with perfumes and cosmetics. 18. Who slapped Prophet Micaiah after revealing the vision he had against Ahab? You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is Zedekiah, 1 Kings 22:24. Then Zedekiah, son of Kenaanah, went up and slapped Micaiah in the face. Which way did the Spirit from the Lord go when he went from me to speak to you? He asked. 19. Who commanded the sun and moon to stand still during battle? Moses, Gideon, Joshua, Jephthah. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is Joshua. Joshua 10:12. On the day the Lord gave the Amorites over to Israel, Joshua said to the Lord in the presence of Israel, O sun, stand still over Gibeon, O moon, over the valley of Aijalon. 20. Who did Israel love the most among his sons? Joseph, Levi, Judah, Dan. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is Joseph, Genesis 37:3. Now Israel loved Joseph more than any of his other sons because he had been born to him in his old age, and he made a richly ornamented robe for him. 21. True or false? Dogs licked up Ahab's blood. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is true. 1 Kings 22:38. They washed the chariot at a pool in Samaria where the prostitutes bathed, and the dogs licked up his blood as the word of the Lord had declared. 22. Which of the 7 churches in Revelations was situated where Satan's throne was? Philadelphia, Adelphos, Antioch, Pergamum. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is Pergamum, Revelations 2:13. I know where you live, where Satan has his throne, yet you remain true to my name. You did not renounce your faith in me, even in the days of Antipas, my faithful witness, who was put to death in your city where Satan lives. 23. Why did King Xerxes summon Queen Vashti? To dance, to pray for them, to show off her beauty, to sing for his guests. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is to show off her beauty, Esther 1:11, to bring before him Queen Vashti wearing her royal crown in order to display her beauty to the people and nobles, for she was lovely to look at. 24. Who among these was not thrown in a fiery furnace? Shadrach, Daniel, Meshach, Abednego. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is Daniel, Daniel 3:19. Then Nebuchadnezzar was furious with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and his attitude toward them changed. He ordered the furnace heated 7 times hotter than usual. 25. Which of these was not among the 4 living creatures around the throne of God? An ox, an eagle, a lion, a horse. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is a horse, Revelations 4:7. The first living creature was like a lion, the second was like an ox, the third had a face like a man, the fourth was like a flying eagle. 26. When John said, I am the voice of the one calling in the desert, who did he quote? Daniel, Ezekiel, Isaiah, Jeremiah. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is Isaiah, John 1:23. John replied in the words of Isaiah the prophet, I am the voice of one calling in the desert, make straight the way for the Lord. 27. Who asked Philip if anything good can come out of Nazareth? Nathanael, Nicodemus, Jason, Jude. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is Nathanael, John 1:46. Nazareth, can anything good come from there? Nathanael asked. Come and see, said Philip. 28. What was Jesus' response when his mother told him about the wine shortage at the wedding? He wept. He gave her money to buy. He thanked God. He said his time hadn't come. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is, he said his time hadn't come. John 2:4. Dear woman, why do you involve me? Jesus replied, my time has not yet come. 29. When a demon that left decides to return, how many wicked spirits does it take with it? You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is 7, Matthew 12:45. Then it goes and takes with it 7 other spirits more wicked than itself, and they go in and live there, and the final condition of that man is worse than the first. That is how it will be with this wicked generation. 30. What was Jonah doing when the sailors were calling on their gods? Sleeping, dancing, eating, praying. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is sleeping. Jonah 1:6. The captain went to him and said, "How can you sleep? Get up and call on your God. Maybe he will take notice of us and we will not perish." 31. How many days did it take Elijah to get to Horeb? 70, 40, 30, 50. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is 40, 1 Kings 19:8. So he got up and ate and drank. Strengthened by that food, he traveled 40 days and 40 nights until he reached Horeb, the mountain of God. 32. Who advised Haman to build a gallows to hang Mordecai? His wife and friends, his sons, Xerxes' lords, the wise men of Persia. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is his wife and friends. Esther 5:14. His wife Zeresh and all his friends said to him, "Have a gallows built 75 feet high, and ask the king in the morning to have Mordecai hanged on it. Then go with the king to the dinner and be happy." This suggestion delighted Haman, and he had the gallows built. 33. Which of Jesus' disciples was the keeper of the money bag? Peter, Judas, James, John. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is Judas, John 12:16. He did not say this because he cared about the poor, but because he was a thief. As keeper of the money bag, he used to help himself to what was put into it. 34. Which of this is not a quality of love? Not proud, kind, patient, boasts. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is boasts. 1 Corinthians 13:4. Love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud. 35. What was done to Daniel's false accusers? They were thrown in the lion's den. They were thrown in the furnace. They were beaten. They were imprisoned. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is they were thrown in the lion's den. Daniel 6:24. At the king's command, the men who had falsely accused Daniel were brought in and thrown into the lion's den, along with their wives and children. And before they reached the floor of the den, the lions overpowered them and crushed all their bones. 36. Under which tree did Elijah sit down and pray to die? An oak tree, a broom tree, a fig tree, a sycamore tree. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is a broom tree. 1 Kings 19:4. While he himself went a day's journey into the desert, he came to a broom tree, sat down under it, and prayed that he might die. "I have had enough, Lord," he said. "Take my life, I am no better than my ancestors." 37. Which of these is a minor prophet? Jeremiah, Amos, Isaiah, Samuel. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is Amos. Amos is one of the minor prophets of the Old Testament. 38. Which of Jesus' disciples was displeased about the perfume Mary poured at Jesus' feet? Judas, Thaddeus, James, John. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is Judas, John 12:4. But one of his disciples, Judas Iscariot, who was later to betray him, objected. 39. When the Lord met Elijah on the mountain, what came after the fire? A gentle whisper, a man, an earthquake, a violent wind. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is a gentle whisper. 1 Kings 19:12. After the earthquake came a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire, and after the fire came a gentle whisper. 40. Who wrote to Titus? Timothy, Philemon, Paul, Peter. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is Paul, Titus 1:1. Paul, a servant of God and an apostle of Jesus Christ for the faith of God's elect and the knowledge of the truth that leads to godliness. 41. True or false? King Xerxes accused Haman of molesting Queen Esther. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is true. Esther 7:8b. The king exclaimed, "Will he even molest the queen while she is with me in the house?" As soon as the word left the king's mouth, they covered Haman's face. 42. How long were Daniel and exiled Israelites trained before going into the king's service? 6 months, 3 years, 1 year, 7 weeks. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is 3 years. Daniel 1:5. The king assigned them a daily amount of food and wine from the king's table. They were to be trained for 3 years, and after that they were to enter the king's service. 43. Where did Jesus find Philip? Galilee, Samaria, Nazareth, Jerusalem. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is Galilee, John 1:43. The next day, Jesus decided to leave for Galilee. Finding Philip, he said to him, "Follow me." 44. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall be blank. Shown mercy, blessed, given dominion, called the sons of God. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is shown mercy, Matthew 5:7. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. 45. In King Nebuchadnezzar's dream, what were the legs of the statue made of? You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is iron, Daniel 2:33. Its legs of iron, its feet partly of iron and partly of baked clay. 46. What did Jacob call the place he dreamed of angels ascending and descending? Luz, Crete, Hanoi, Bethel. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is Bethel, Genesis 28:29. He called that place Bethel, though the city used to be called Luz. 47. What did Cornelius see in his vision? An olive branch, a sheet containing animals, a bird, an angel. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is an angel, Acts 10:3. One day at about 3 in the afternoon, he had a vision. He distinctly saw an angel of God who came to him and said, "Cornelius." 48. What did the two scoundrels hired by Jezebel accuse Naboth of? Theft, seducing Jezebel, murder, cursing God and the king. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is cursing God and the king. 1 Kings 21:13. Then two scoundrels came and sat opposite him and brought charges against Naboth before the people, saying, Naboth has cursed both God and the king. So they took him outside the city and stoned him to death. 49. What was done to someone who approached King Xerxes without being summoned? The person was killed. The person became a slave. The person froze. They were made to dance. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is the person was killed. Esther 4:11. All the king's officials and the people of the royal provinces know that for any man or woman who approaches the king in the inner court without being summoned, the king has but one law, that he be put to death. 50. True or false? Jesus came to abolish the law and the prophets. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is false. Matthew 5:17. Do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them. 51. Who ate a scroll from an angel that tastes sweet but turns sour in his stomach? John, Jehoshaphat, Peter, Abraham. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is John, Revelations 10:10. I took the little scroll from the angel's hand and ate it. It tasted as sweet as honey in my mouth, but when I had eaten it, my stomach turned sour. 52. Which of these was among the 12 disciples? Thaddeus, Titus, Timothy, Paul. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is Thaddeus, Matthew 10:3, Philip and Bartholomew, Thomas and Matthew the tax collector, James son of Alphaeus and Thaddeus. 53. Which disciple asked Jesus why he wanted to show himself to them and not the world? Judas or Thaddeus? Peter, Judas Iscariot, John. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is Judas or Thaddeus. John 14:22. Then Judas, not Judas Iscariot, said, But Lord, why do you intend to show yourself to us and not to the world? 54. Whose name was mentioned in Proverbs 31? You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is King Lemuel, Proverbs 31:1. The sayings of King Lemuel, an oracle his mother taught him. 55. In John's vision, what do the golden bowls full of incense represent? Judgment, cries of the oppressed, mercy, prayers of the saints. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is prayers of the saints, Revelations 5:8. And when he had taken it, the 4 living creatures and the 24 elders fell down before the Lamb. Each one had a harp, and they were holding golden bowls of incense, which are the prayers of the saints. 56. Who was Haman's wife? Vashti, Zeresh, Asenath, Dinah. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is Zeresh, Esther 5:10. Nevertheless, Haman restrained himself and went home, calling together his friends and Zeresh his wife. 57. Why did Zacchaeus climb a tree to see Jesus? He loved trees. He was short. He wanted Jesus to see him. He wanted to hide. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is he was short. Luke 19:3. He wanted to see who Jesus was, but being a short man, he could not because of the crowd. 58. Which of Tamar's twins broke out first? Onan, Perez, Zerah, You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is Perez, Genesis 38:29. But when he drew back his hand, his brother came out and she said, "So this is how you have broken out," and he was named Perez. 59. How did Jesus identify the one to betray him? A kiss. He patted him. A handshake. He gave him bread. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is he gave him bread. John 13:26. Jesus answered, "It is the one to whom I will give this piece of bread when I have dipped it in the dish." Then dipping the piece of bread, he gave it to Judas Iscariot, son of Simon. 60. What can make a man who gives out all his possession gain nothing? No love, no thanksgiving, no faith, no prayer. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is no love. 1 Corinthians 13:13. If I give all I possess to the poor and surrender my body to the flames, but have not love, I gain nothing. 61. Which of these did Paul refer to as his prisoner in Christ? Epaphras, James, Onesimus, Aristarchus. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is Epaphras, Philemon 1:23. Epaphras, my fellow prisoner in Christ Jesus, sends you greetings. 62. When the third seal was opened, what did John see? A rider on a pale horse. Smoke filled the temple. Scales. A rider on a black horse. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is a rider on a black horse. Revelation 6:5. When the Lamb opened the third seal, I heard the third living creature say, "Come." I looked, and there before me was a black horse. Its rider was holding a pair of scales in his hand. 63. The book of Proverbs has how many chapters? 50, 30, 150, 31. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is 31. Proverbs has 31 chapters. 64. Around what time did Cornelius have his vision? 6 in the morning, noon, 3 in the afternoon, midnight. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is 3 in the afternoon. Acts 10:3. One day at about 3 in the afternoon, he had a vision. He distinctly saw an angel of God who came to him and said, "Cornelius." 65. How did the sailors find out that Jonah was the cause of the storm? Through prayers, by vision, by casting lot, by prophecy. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is by casting lot. Jonah 1:7. Then the sailors said to each other, "Come, let us cast lots to find out who is responsible for this calamity." They cast lots, and the lot fell on Jonah. 66. Who was the eunuch entrusted with the care of Esther and the virgins? Teman, Shaashgaz, Hegai, Hamedatha. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is Haggai, Esther 2:8. When the king's order and edict had been proclaimed, many girls were brought to the citadel of Susa and put under the care of Haggai. Esther also was taken to the king's palace and entrusted to Haggai, who had charge of the harem. 67. Which of Israel's sons was born to him in old age? Joseph, Naphtali, Dan, Levi. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is Joseph, Genesis 37:3. Now Israel loved Joseph more than any of his other sons, because he had been born to him in his old age, and he made a richly ornamented robe for him. 68. Which of Judah's sons did God put to death for being wicked? Shelah, Gad, Oman, You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is Genesis 38:7. But Judah's firstborn, was wicked in the Lord's sight, so the Lord put him to death. 69. Which of these does God hate? A lying tongue, daydreamers, no mercy, playfulness. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is a lying tongue. Proverbs 6:17. Haughty eyes, a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood. 70. Why should those who are persecuted for Jesus' sake rejoice? Pain is gain. Their reward is great. God will release fire on them. Their anointing will increase. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is, their reward is great. Matthew 5:12. Rejoice and be glad, because great is your reward in heaven. For in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you. 71. What was Elisha's request from Elijah before he was taken away? His cloak, double portion of his spirit, his wealth and influence, his powers. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is double portion of his spirit. 2 Kings 2:9. When they had crossed, Elijah said to Elisha, "Tell me, what can I do for you before I am taken from you?" "Let me inherit a double portion of your spirit," Elisha replied. 72. Which of these fruits did 2 of the 12 spies carry back from exploring Canaan? Oranges, apples, a cluster of grapes, lemons. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is a cluster of grapes. Numbers 13:23. When they reached the valley of Eshcol, they cut off a branch bearing a single cluster of grapes. 2 of them carried it on a pole between them, along with some pomegranates and figs. 73. Who did the spies see while exploring Canaan that made them look like grasshoppers? Nephilim, Jebusites, Ophanim, the Hittites. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is Nephilim, Numbers 13:33. We saw the Nephilim there, the descendants of Anak come from the Nephilim. We seem like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and we look the same to them. 74. Who informed Nathanael about Jesus? James, Philip, Peter, Judas. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is Philip, John 1:45. Philip found Nathanael and told him, "We have found the one Moses wrote about in the law, and about whom the prophets also wrote, Jesus of Nazareth, the son of Joseph." 75. Who did Israel make a richly ornamented robe for? Benjamin, Reuben, Joseph, Dan. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is Joseph, Genesis 37:3. Now Israel loved Joseph more than any of his other sons, because he had been born to him in his old age, and he made a richly ornamented robe for him. 76. Which of the churches in Revelations was accused of tolerating Jezebel? Thyatira, Smyrna, Philadelphia, Pergamum. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is Thyatira, Revelations 2:20. Nevertheless, I have this against you. You tolerate that woman Jezebel who calls herself a prophetess. By her teaching, she misleads my servants into sexual immorality and the eating of food sacrificed to idols. 77. In Peter's vision, what was on the large sheet being let down from heaven? Four-footed animals, reptiles, and birds. Clean animals and trees. Plants, reptiles, and unclean animals. Clean, unclean animals, and plants. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is four-footed animals, reptiles, and birds. Acts 10:12. It contained all kinds of four-footed animals, as well as reptiles of the earth and birds of the air. 78. What did Joseph's brothers do with his richly ornamented robe after selling him? Sold it, turned it into a rag, dipped it in goat's blood, divided it among themselves. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is dipped it in goat's blood, Genesis 37:31. Then they got Joseph's robe, slaughtered a goat, and dipped the robe in the blood. 79. Daniel realized that Jerusalem's desolation was for 70 years through whose prophecy? Isaiah, Hosea, Jeremiah, Ezekiel. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is Jeremiah, Daniel 9:2. In the first year of his reign, I, Daniel, understood from the scriptures, according to the word of the Lord given to Jeremiah the prophet, that the desolation of Jerusalem would last 70 years. 80. How many times did the angel of God wake Elijah up to eat? 1, 4, 2, 3. You have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is 2. 1 Kings 19:7. The angel of the Lord came back a second time and touched him and said, "Get up and eat, for the journey is too much for you." And there you have it. How well did you do? Tally your score and post in the comments. Don't forget to share this quiz with your family and friends. See you in the next one. God bless.